Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
They're all trying to say, how dare you take him out that way? You should get permission from Congress. These are split-second decisions. You have to make a decision.
Oh, for God's sake.
So they don't want me to make that decision. They want me to call up, maybe go over there. Let me go over to Congress. So come on over to the White House. Let's talk about it. We heard where he was. We knew the way he was getting there. And we had to make a decision. We didn't have time to call up Nancy, who was not operating with a full deck. Can you imagine calling crooked Adam Schiff? They want us to tell them so that they can leak it to their friends in the corrupt media.
Oh, you know, this was a freak show again last night. And now I understand the expression "Holy Toledo." Never understood before. Happy Friday, you bastards. Oh, what a week. Man, this went fast. This was our first week back in the new year. And oh my God, we're going to bank this week and revisit it next year when hopefully he ain't president anymore. I mean, wouldn't that be something? But this is so sick. So here are the questions I want you to, tell me your answers to. And, I don't care which, everybody, oh, we're on a side. Yeah, well, you shouldn't be on a side. You should be America and America's interests first. Right? Isn't that what, this orange madman told you? America first, right? America's interests first. So, does the president have to go to Congress to declare war? Should the president have to go to Congress if he wants to assassinate a creature of a sovereign nation's army? You got to remember, Soleimani's not a stateless actor. No matter how many times he calls him a terrorist, it will never meet the definition. The definition of a terrorist is a stateless actor, an enemy combatant. This man was part of the army, like it or not, of Iran. So I want to know whether or not the president needed to go to Congress. Obviously, he's lying. There was no imminent threat. And now he's doubling down. Oh, yeah. Today, he said, well, last night and yesterday, he said that he knew the target. And the target was the embassy in the Green Zone in Iraq. Nobody had said that before. Every senator who did any media in the last 24 hours was asked a straight-up question, not on Fox, right? But every senator who showed up, whether it was Rand Paul or Mike Lee or a Democrat like Tim Kaine or, Justin Amash, an independent, they were all asked whether or not the briefing included an imminent threat with a target, when and where. They all said no. There was no imminent threat. So that means what Trump did was illegal, and yeah, he had to go to Congress. Now, if there was an imminent threat, I just want you to wrap your little brain around this, then he could take the shot, and then he had to notify Congress and tell them what the imminent threat was. 6 days later, they decided to brief Congress, and 6 days later, they still hadn't been able to say when and where. An idiot boy, this lying sack of crap, Pompeo, went on Lala Ingram's show last night and actually sat there and told her, well, we didn't know when and we didn't know where.
There is no doubt that there were a series of imminent attacks that were being plotted by Qasem Soleimani. We don't know precisely when, and we don't know precisely where, but it was real.
We don't know when, we don't know where, but it was real. Well, the president decided that he was going to stick with his story because it's a good applause line at a stupid rally with 8,000 people in Toledo, Ohio, that they were going to attack our embassy.
Can you provide more details on what that plot was?
No, I think it was obvious. If you look at the protests, and this was the anti-Benghazi. This was, Benghazi was a disaster. They showed up A long time after it took place, they saw burning embers from days before.
What?
I said, get out today, immediately. They were saying, we think we can have them tomorrow. I said, nope, they got to go right now. And they were on their way very quickly. And they got there almost, they got there quickly. They could have done that with Benghazi, too, by the way, same thing. Had they gotten there, had they done what I did, you wouldn't know the name Benghazi. It would not be a very famous name. Now it's a very famous name. This was the anti-Benghazi. We got the Apaches there very quickly. They were doing the flares. People didn't know what was happening. But if you look at those protesters, they were rough warriors. They weren't protesters. They were Iranian-backed. Some were from Iraq, but they were Iranian-backed, absolutely, and they were looking to do damage, and they were breaking the windows. And, those are very structurally strong windows, as you know, and they were almost through. And had they gotten through, I believe we would have either had a hostage situation or we would have had we would have had a lot of people killed. Those people were going to do very serious harm. They were soldiers. They were warriors, and we stopped it. We stopped it. That was a totally organized plot, and you know who organized it. That man right now is not around any longer, okay? And he had more than that particular embassy in mind.
All right, so Pompeo was asked where and when, and he said he didn't know.
There is no doubt that there were a series of imminent attacks that were being plotted by Qasem Soleimani. We don't know precisely when, and we don't know precisely where.
Just saying. That's not the same story that, the Secretary of State is telling as the president is telling. So, of course, the president, this little orange man, he's like Alex Jones with a license to kill. Do you know that's what we have as a president? It's like sitting there tied to the bed, watching your toddler play with a loaded gun. That's our president. All right, so they threw Pompeo back on the TV. And they said, Pompeo, you have to go back on the TV and you have to say that you know that the embassies were targeted.
The administration said this strike was done based on an imminent threat. But this morning you said we didn't know precisely when and we didn't know precisely where. That's not the definition of imminent. The president has also suggested that there was some sort of attack being planned against an embassy, perhaps several embassies. Can you clarify? Did you have specific information about an imminent threat, and did it have anything to do with our embassies?
We had specific information on an imminent threat, and those threat stream included attacks on U.S. embassies.
See what I mean? This is after the fact an excuse for Donald Trump's illegal behavior, which, by the way, whether or not, and here's another question for you. Do you believe in the war powers of Congress, or do you believe in a unitary executive? The other question that I have today is, do you believe that Iran accidentally shot down a Ukrainian airliner with Russian missiles? Do you believe that that was an accident, that Iran screwed up, or because they're denying that they did it? And they may be right. It could have been the Russians that did it. I don't know. But this is just so sick. This is so unbelievable. So, okay, let's start with an independent. Justin Amash was asked whether or not there is a threat, whether or not there was an imminent threat.
This all, of course, started with President Trump's decision to strike Iran's top general, General Soleimani, right as he was going to the airport in Baghdad. You just voted with most of the Democrats and 3 Republicans, Congressmen, including loyal Trump supporter Matt Gaetz, to limit President Trump's ability, or any president's ability, to use military action. So in this case, it was to limit the president's ability to use military action against Iran without first getting congressional approval. Do you believe that Trump abused his power in the strike that killed General Soleimani?
Based on the information I have from the classified briefing I attended, I do think so.
Thank you. Independent, former Republican, Republicans, Libertarians, everybody, Tim Kaine, no threat.
Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Don't the American people have a right to know what specifically was targeted without revealing methods and sources?
Well, I don't think so, but we will tell you that probably it was going to be the embassy in Baghdad.
Did they have large-scale attacks planned for other embassies? And if those were planned, why can't we reveal that to the American people? Wouldn't that help your case?
I can reveal that I believe it would have been 4 embassies.
4. Now we're up to 4. Okay. We started with Pompeo saying no imminent threat. We don't know where. We didn't know when. Then you had the president go out and say, oh, it was the embassy. And you know what? You could see it for yourself because there were protesters. And oh, my God, we had to kill their general. And then he's going to be on Laura Ingraham tonight, and he's going to say 4 embassies. You know why? Apparently, we took another shot at another Iranian state general. Apparently, there's another part of another Iranian. Listen, they could call generals from foreign nations terrorists all they want. Doesn't make it so. They could be an adversary. They could be somebody who brutalizes their own people. They could be whatever. But that does not mean that they are a terrorist. The definition of a terrorist is a stateless actor, not part of a sovereign nation's military. Okay? If you wanted to go down that road, well, then America is going to have to take a long, hard look at the amount of people that we've killed and decide whether or not we're going to call ourselves terrorists. I would say we won't. Just a gamble, just a bet, just a little prediction that we would not do that. But, this is just so sick. It's so sick. So Congress, last night, the House of Representatives, as you may know by now, took a vote about whether or not to assert its constitutional authority. You know what it says in the Constitution? Congress shall declare war, not the president. You know why that is? Because the founding fathers, who had just come out of a monarchy, and the entire world had monarchies and unitary executives, dictators, authoritarian governments, and America was going to try something different. They were going to give direct representation to the people, and that those representatives closest to the people would be the ones with the war powers, not the king. That one man shouldn't have the awesome ability to take an entire nation's children into war. That it should be a deliberate, debatable, whether or not there was an imminent threat, whether or not that power belonged to Congress, and the funding of said war belonged to Congress. After they voted, after their deliberations, after a vote on the record was entered into the congressional record, if the answer was yes, take America to war, then the president would become the commander-in-chief. That is the power of Congress. That is the power of the president, constitutionally speaking. But we haven't declared war since 1941 because Congress is chicken. They don't want to go on the record. Now, I will say after 9/11, they did something called an authorization to use military force. And for some strange reason, they included attacking Saddam Hussein, who had nothing to do with 9/11. However, attacking Saddam Hussein, who's long dead, and any terrorists, non-state actors that committed an attack on New York City and the Pentagon and were aiming for the U.S. Capitol on American soil has nothing to do with attacking Iran. Nothing. And people seem to understand that these days because they're war-weary and tired of these endless, stupid, political wars. Republicans love them. And they don't win them. And 55% of the American people understand that this made us less safe.
As for the public, a new USA Today Ipsos poll shows a majority of the public, 55%, think the strike on Soleimani made the U.S. less safe. Less than a quarter say the U.S. is safer as a result.
Who are these 20? I told you, there's always going to be 25, 30% of the American people that just can't find it on a map. But whatever this demagogue wants is what they'll do. They will vote against their own best interest. They will send their kids off to war. His kids will not go off to war. He will never go off to war. Nobody, who's so situated will go off. No, but it's so unbelievable. So now, because there is no imminent threat, and there really is no imminent threat, I mean, everybody was asked. I just played you Justin Amash. Let me finish playing Justin Amash, because in this one little minute of Justin Amash, the former Republican from Michigan, who is now an independent and voted for impeachment of this president, he explains it really well.
This all, of course, started with President Trump's decision to strike Iran's top general, General Soleimani, right as he was going to the airport in Baghdad. You just voted with most of the Democrats and 3 Republicans, Congressman, including loyal Trump supporter Matt Gaetz, to limit President Trump's ability, or any president's ability, to use military action. So in this case, it was to limit the president's ability to use military action against Iran without first getting congressional approval. Do you believe that Trump abused his power in the strike that killed General Soleimani?
Based on the information I have from the classified briefing I attended, I do think so. Every military action that is non-defensive has to have congressional authorization under our Constitution. Yeah. So we have a 2001 authorization, for example, to go after the 9/11 perpetrators. We have a 2002 authorization to go after Saddam Hussein's regime. But there's no authorization that is pertinent to this particular circumstance. So the only way the president can act is defensively. So there has to be imminence. And if there's no imminence, then it's not authorized.
So the president broke the law. And, unfortunately, 176 people died in what they're calling the fog of the president's war. And we don't know who shot the missile yet, so you don't know who to get all worked up about. But in the fog of war, this is the explanation we're getting from the president. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. So people died so Trump could have an applause line at the Toledo rally last night. That's pretty much where we are. People died in the fog of Trump's political war to take the focus off his impeachment so he could have an applause line last night in Toledo, Ohio, and give himself war powers. I'm sorry. Every time this man does something, people die. Everything he touches dies. Thank you, Rick Wilson, right? And that is the reality. And as long as he's president, we're too used to thinking that Trump's going to do something and people are going to die. And we just, for instance, everything he's done fails. Even us, like ordinary folks, right? So he, kicks 1 million people off of their health care plans. Makes it so expensive you can't buy health care plans. Do you know? And everybody just rolls their eyes. He mistreats people at the border, separates women and children. The environment is ruined. Roll your eyes.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
So last night they did take a vote in the House whether or not Congress was going to, show some spine and vote for their own powers that are given to them by virtue of the Constitution, or invoke this unitary executive thing that's been going on since freaking George W. Bush, okay? And even loony Matt Gaetz from Florida got on the floor and said, no, I'm not giving the president the power to declare war.
I represent more troops than any other member of this body. I buried one of them earlier today at Arlington. And that sergeant died a patriot and a hero. If the members of our armed services have the courage to go and fight and die in these wars, as Congress, we ought to have the courage to vote for them or against them. And I think it's ludicrous to suggest that we are impairing the troops from doing their job by not doing our job articulated in the Constitution.
Wow. No one can believe it. Wow. Lunatic Matt Gaetz actually put together, and it's sort of like the Iranians switching sides for a brief moment to help us fight ISIS. You know what I mean? It's like one of those deals where you just switch sides for a brief moment because the opportunities on the other side are better for you. So Matt Gaetz actually put together a coherent thought. And that thought is a constitutional one. That only Congress has the power to declare war. And Rand Paul is, he's out there too going, no one with a straight face thinks that there was a threat. And no one with a straight face would give, these powers away.
Well, it's an insult to the Constitution. The Constitution said the power to declare war was to be given to Congress. They specifically did not give that power to the president. In the briefing and in public, this administration has argued that the vote to topple Saddam Hussein in 2002 now applies to military action in Iraq. That is absurd. Nobody in their right mind with a straight face, with an ounce of honesty, can argue that when Congress voted to go after Saddam Hussein in 2002, that authorized military force against an Iranian general 18 years later.
I mean, when you put it like that, it does sound kind of stupid, doesn't it? When you put it like that, 18 years later to go after an Iraqi a leader, a secular leader in Iraq who, because they said, the intelligence said, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Obviously, there were none. And it was a lie. Well, we don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud. Okay, that was a lie. And we're still there. We're still freaking there. And so when you put it like that, the authorization to go into Afghanistan and then the year later authorization to go into Iraq to get Saddam Hussein, who's now long dead, somehow applies to the assassination of an Iranian general, it just sounds stupid. Chris in Hawaii.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
Aloha.
Aloha.
So my biggest thing is there's going to be about 1,800 people that die today of heart disease. And throw in probably another 2,000 of cancer just today alone.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you focus your attention on protecting us with health care? Let's fight real.
I think everybody understands that I'm committed to health care for all.
Oh yeah, I know, Randy. That I know.
So,
it's just I just hate the
so there's
insult
not
of,
a chance
of protecting us.
But there's not a chance. Oh, really? Please give me a freaking break. What he cares about it? He said healthcare was so easy. He was going to do it. It was going to be better. It was going to be cheaper,
bigger, better, stronger, faster,
whatever. And he was going to do it quickly and strongly.
Yeah, bigly.
The guy is a lying sack. Okay, it's like I said, it's like being tied to your bed, watching your 2-year-old play with a loaded gun, having this man as president. Of course, Americans are losing their health care coverage. The man stopped the risk corridor payments to the insurance companies, and they passed the cost on to you. He ended the individual mandate. So, of course, we had to make up the difference between the money that people who choose to be unhealthy, who choose not to get screened, who choose to get diagnosed late instead of early, and then have to eat up all the services, and we get stuck with their bill. Of course the cost of health care went up. This man is dangerous. He's dangerous to every living thing. Everything he touches dies. Everything.
Hey, real quick, I had a new way to fight with anybody Trumpers.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken a reverse tack with them. I tell them, you know what? I think it's great that we're going to be speaking Russian. I think it's fantastic that he locks kids up, and they can't argue. Their heads kind of explode. It's kind of been my new tack. Hopefully, it catches on in dealing with these idiots.
You know what? Last night at this rally thing, a lot of people were tweeting about it, blah, blah, blah. And so somebody compiled a whole bunch of photographs of the Trump supporters, the maggots, the deplorables, the Cult 45 members. And they are so disgusting. I mean, they have T-shirts that have the C word on it with regard to Hillary. And then they have these T-shirts that they proudly wear as American patriots that says, I'd rather be speaking Russian than having Hillary as president. Are you? I mean, and then they're going to question the patriotism of people like Tammy Duckworth, who left 2 legs on a battlefield. Seriously. I mean, the nerve of that. Even Doug Collins, wacky Doug Collins, had to apologize today because they have been attacking veterans and Gold Star families since Donald Trump started doing it. They just go like lockstep in with his disgusting attacks on people who literally left body parts on the battlefield. Yeah. I mean, when he said, about John McCain was no hero because he likes people that weren't captured, they started repeating that.
Right. Well, you taught me politics should stop at the water's edge.
Well, duh.
And that has been one of the things that you taught me that sticks in my head the most when I see these guys siding with Russia, Saudi Arabians, and this money flooding into our country. It just makes me sick.
It makes me ill too because look, the limits on money for Americans to buy themselves a senator, a president, a congressman, those are gone. But the only campaign finance law that we still have left on the books is no foreign money, and that's gone. That's out the freaking window.
Yeah. The dark money. It comes in dark.
Americans don't care that they're not in charge of choosing their own leaders. I mean, because they like this guy who yells at protesters, and this somehow fills them with joy.
Dumbing down of America.
Listen, I got this little clip from last night. I got to play this for you. This is so unbelievably illustrative of what I'm telling you about the Trump supporters, okay? I mean, the idea that they know anything is off the table. Thank you. This is amazing. They asked this Trump supporter, what if anything, do you think Trump ever did wrong?
What is something that you believe the president has done well?
I'm not really sure. I just support him.
Wow. No, she didn't ask him what he did wrong. She said, what did he do well? Sorry, that was my bad. And the guy goes, well, I don't know. I just support him. Wow.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This has to be the clip of the week. This has to be like the best clip we've pulled in a really long time.
What is something that you believe the president has done well?
I'm not really sure. I just support him.
See, and this is why Trump's actions, like assassinating, other foreign nations' generals, have no consequences, because these are his supporters. And congressional Republicans use all of their time and power shielding him from consequences, even though the consequences are spelled out in the Constitution, which some Republicans are starting to realize. So that's where we are now. Next week, I'm pretty sure that. Well, I don't know. I don't know what you listen to before you listen to me. So I'll just lay it out for you. There are a couple of things that you need to know. Next week, we will probably see an impeachment trial begin. I will tell you, Nancy Pelosi sent a letter over to the colleagues in the House, all her colleagues in the House, the Democratic caucus, and she told them that they should prepare, especially Gerald Nadler, who's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, to prepare to select House managers to present the case in the Senate. Now, it doesn't happen like Gerald Nadler says, okay, I'm going to pick Adam Schiff, or I'm going to pick myself, or I'm going to pick, this one or that one. No, it goes to a vote. So everything is tedious. Everything is the process. Everything is debated because we're Democrats. So next week, I expect to see the resolution with, that names the House managers who are going to be deployed over to the Senate to present the case. And then the House will vote on that. And then similarly over in the Senate, when they receive the articles, Mitch McConnell will have, some sort of a pretend deliberative process where he just, has everybody vote to begin. And then you're going to start to see them vote to dismiss. And that's what I'm telling you. And America, the beautiful thing about why, I want you to understand why, I listen to the media sometimes, even, like normal, fact-finding media. And they sit there, and when they go down the opinion road, you just want to slap them because you just wonder, like, how do you come to these ridiculous conclusions? Nancy Pelosi made a huge mistake in holding those articles. I don't see how this works. And oh my God, the only reason why she did it was we were all on Christmas vacation, including the Senate. Okay. And she wanted some conversation while they were away between her. She's the House leader. And Mitch McConnell, he's the Senate leader. Co-equal branches of government should discuss what every single trial court in this nation does. And that is talk to both sides. A judge wants to know, he knows. But a judge will inform both sides, the prosecution and the defense, in any legitimate trial, what the rules are. How long they'll have for opening statements, how long they'll have to, present witnesses, how many witnesses, are approved, and which documents will be admitted based on the rules of evidence. It makes only Mitch McConnell won't tell the prosecutors what the court's rules are. So the reason why she held it up is A, she could because everybody's on vacation, and B, she wanted Americans of all stripes to take a breath and to look at what Mitch McConnell is going to call a trial. It's a Russian show trial that he has in mind. There is nothing American about it. There's nothing that has any relationship to American jurisprudence. There's nothing that's fair about it. There is nothing that looks at, rules and explains them to the people who are going to present the case, the prosecutors, or to the defense attorneys. Only the defense attorneys know what Mitch McConnell has in mind. Now, that is really sick. That's twisted, okay? But she wanted America to understand and give Mitch McConnell a chance to show his butt. And he showed it. Anything I do is going to be coordinated with the White House lawyers. Nancy Pelosi, I don't care what she wants. We're not having documents. We're not having witnesses. How in the world do you call that a trial? It's not a trial. It's supposed to be. It's not. It's something else. I would call it a kangaroo court. I would call it, a show trial. I would call it, Mitch McConnell's dog and pony show, anything at all. But it ain't a trial. It's just not. It's a joke. And Mitch McConnell is an impediment to democracy. And I think Americans needed a chance to think that through. Now, when you do look at the polls, 71% of Americans think a trial ought to include witnesses. And if you include the word documents, they go, oh, yeah, that too. So that's why. It came right at Christmas time. They were leaving. Anyway, they have a long 3-day weekend this weekend, too. So next Tuesday, expect to see, votes being taken in the House about who the impeachment managers will be and, who they're sending over and what they're going to present. And she doesn't even know what the arena looks like. I mean, that is just, it's sick. It's un-American. It has nothing to do with the Clinton. You remember the Clinton impeachment trial? No, because nobody does. Only I do. Because I remember Rehnquist and his fashion choices, because, of course, I'm an icon. I'm a fashion icon. And so, of course, I remember Rehnquist decided that he would deck himself out. He would just peacock. And so he put gold stripes on his black robe, on his drab robe. And, he was just very grateful that nobody asked him to do anything, and he did nothing. But the difference was all the witnesses in the Clinton trial had their depositions taken by Ken Starr. All the witnesses in the Clinton trial had all testified in front of a grand jury, including Bill Clinton, and the 3 witnesses whose testimony was played for the jury of the Senate, were all 100-0 agreed upon. That will never happen here. Roy in Florida.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, Roy.
Serious question. Where do you get your blouses from? I want to buy some for my wife. You got the greatest blouse. I'm serious. I'm not being funny or anything. And please don't tell me Kohl's, because my wife works there. In Florida, do you buy them in Florida or?
Some of them I buy at Kohl's. The
oh God!
No,
okay.
Okay, but this one, like you know this shirt, right? I've worn it.
I'm looking. Yeah, no. There's
Okay.
only one. There's only one person. You and you know who Al Jardine is? He's in the Beach Boys. We're the greatest shirts or tops or whatever you want to call them, and they're all great. But I was just curious.
I'll admit I have a fetish for a cute top and shoes and a bag. All right, it's my thing. Other than that, I wear the same $12 jeans. These shirts I got from Nordstrom Rack.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Nordstrom. What about Dillard's? Do you ever go to Dillard's? I don't even know if there's a Dillard's down there anymore.
There is. I troll them every now and then. I usually walk out with nothing, just to say. But no, Nordstrom Rack, and these are by some off-brand. It's called Elodie, Elodie.
Okay, Elodie. Okay, cool.
Elodie.
Yeah, because
it runs true to size. Okay, so I don't know tell me what her boobs are, and I'll tell you what size you want.
Not big.
She's
normal. She didn't have a job
What's
or anything.
normal? Anything over a mouthful is wasted? What's normal? What is normal?
Well, it's bigger than a mouthful.
Oh, okay. Well, so they're true to size. Whatever her, go look in her closet and see whatever her Kohl's stuff is. That's what size she is.
Yeah, no,
but
she gets discounts at Kohl's, but Kohl's is
I have Kohl's cash in my purse right freaking now. So let's not try.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, it's payday, right? So I paid Brett and Scotty on Friday. I only pay myself once a month, but I pay Brett and Scotty every Friday. And every Friday I give Brett a check, and every Friday Brett says the same thing. I'm going to Kohl's.
Okay, but Nordstrom is really the place.
Nordstrom Rack, because that's the sales.
Nordstrom Rack.
Yeah,
okay.
this shirt comes in about 80,000 different prints. It's the blue and white polka dot one, the red polka dot one, this one.
Are they all cotton or?
No, they're rayon, and they're
rayon. No, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, and they're like $24, and if you do
that's all. Okay.
Yeah, they're $24, and if you do a day on a coupon, or you do Rakuten, with the eBay, you get money back. So
no, they look like they're a lot more than $24. That's why I asked. Okay.
I love these
Thank
shirts.
you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Well, your wife ought to love you. That was ballsy. Gotta say, call somebody up and say, "Where did you buy your clothes?" I told you I was a fashion icon. Wasn't I just saying that? I was just mentioning. I know a lot of people write me where I get my blouses, and I tell them, okay? So what can I tell you? I'm here to help. I'm here for you. That's what I'm here for. And it is Friday, you bastards. And when we come back, I got to read you a story that will hardly get covered.
Mary had a little lamb.
The fall. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
They stole the election. No, she lost. She lost. The next time, the next time. The next time, she's got to go to Wisconsin to campaign. It hadn't been lost in decades. The people are great in Wisconsin. You have to go there and campaign.
Okay, so this lock her up thing, that ought to be dead and buried. Of course, they're going to need a new foil, and Nancy Pelosi is it. I hope you understand that. But the lock her up thing is over. It is over. This president literally tasked his attorney generals, plural. We had Jeff Sessions. I wonder if anybody even remembers Matt Whitaker. Well, you do if you watch Fox News, because he's now a pundit on Fox News. He's an analyst on Fox News, this freaky dude who somehow became our Attorney General of the United States. But and Bill Barr. Okay, so we've had 3 attorney generals in less than 3 years. Well, what Donald Trump did was when he had Jeff Sessions and Matt Whitaker, he ordered the Attorney General of the United States, who for some reason Donald Trump believes doesn't serve the American people as the chief prosecutor for crimes and criminal. No, he thinks that it's his personal attorney, and said, I want you to investigate Hillary Clinton. I want an email investigation. I want an investigation into the Clinton Foundation when his charity was found to be so fraudulent that they had to close it down. He is barred for life from ever having a charity foundation, and so are his children. They're barred for life from ever having a charity foundation, and he was ordered to pay $25 million to veterans groups that he stiffed, okay? But he wanted the Attorney General of the United States to look into the Clinton Foundation, into Hillary's emails, and also into the Uranium One conspiracy theory that was propounded endlessly by the likes of Sean Hannity, Judge Jeanine Pirro, who is a lunatic. And you just say to yourself, my God, am I glad I don't break the law, or don't put myself in a position where police could even, arrest me for anything. I stay in the house and I whatever. Because if you have judges like Jeanine Pirro, who actually sat in court and could sentence people to time and take away their liberty, you got judges like this crazy Judge Rao, who was like, well, why don't you just get into a gun battle with Bill Barr's FBI, the House Sergeant at Arms, or to get into a gun battle with Bill Barr's FBI if you want documents released. I swear to God, these are nutbags. These are really crazy people who have awesome powers to take away your freedom of movement, your liberty, right? Anyway, he appointed a U.S. attorney in Utah. Jeff Sessions did. John Huber. This has been going on for 2 years. He started in November of 2017. It is now 2020. That's how long this has been going on. And when Sessions was fired, Whitaker took over and told him he wanted him to look even harder. Look harder at Hillary. They looked at the Clinton Foundation. They looked at the Uranium One deal. They looked at the email server. They found absolutely nothing. Nothing that was even remotely wrong, untoward, let alone chargeable. The people that were involved in this, they're speaking out on a condition of anonymity. They said, we never expected to find much, and we never did. And as time went on, a lot of people in the office just sort of forgot about it because there was nothing there. So here is what you have. You have Hillary Clinton now. She should be on the cover of Time magazine as America's most investigated woman. There is no question in my mind that she is the most investigated woman. Benghazi, that's also a nothing burger, okay? Nothing. There was nothing she did wrong there. That was some outpost in the backwoods of a freaking town in Libya, for God's sake. And the people in Libya had overthrown Muammar Gaddafi, their own dictator, and there was a freaking power of whatever. You don't need the explanation. The Clinton Family Foundation has been investigated. Can't tell you how many times over the years. They have never found any corruption, nothing even vaguely that represents or looks like or smells like or feels like or tastes like corruption. No charges ever produced. And yet a cursory look into the Trump Foundation, woo, that was some fraud. Barred from ever having a charity again. His kids, barred from ever having a charity again. 25 mil, you pay. His freaking university, fraud, pay. This is so unbelievable. The State Department also was tasked with doing a multi-year investigation into Uranium One. Nothing. No there. Absolutely nothing untoward. It didn't even reach the Secretary of State level. It went through the 9 agencies it was supposed to go through. And here's the dirty little secret. Not only that the media is just they're doing a cursory, mention. It's a big story in the New York Times. Oh, by the way, they're not even explaining to you that if you read the story on page 4 of the 5 pages of New York Times storytelling here. This particular investigation was concluded last spring. And nobody said a freaking word about it. That's because Bill Barr had become the Attorney General, and he was working on characterizing the Mueller report in a way that was untrue, saying that it exonerated Donald Trump, that it exculpated him, that it found no wrongdoing, there was no collusion. That is not what the Mueller report found. But you had Whitaker and then Barr, and they were trying to push this guy in Utah to be more aggressive, get more aggressive. I want you to look at even more. He said, I looked at everything. Everything. There's no there. There's nothing wrong with the foundation. There is nothing wrong with the Uranium One deal. There is nothing wrong with her email server. There was no intention for her to break the law, and nothing was compromised, okay? Nothing. There's no there. What do you want from me? Uranium One was a Toronto-based. What do you want from me? And so he concluded his report as Whitaker was leaving and Barr was dealing with the Mueller report. And now today, and this is another story that is, I've heard nobody report it. Listen, I watch as much as I can. Maybe somebody else had, but I've seen nothing about it. That the New York Bar Association, I should say New York City, not New York State, but the New York City Bar Association has written a letter to Congress, and they are requesting that they investigate AG Barr for bias. Here's what the letter says, quote, the duties to act impartially, to avoid even the appearance of partiality and impropriety, and to avoid manifesting bias, prejudice, or partisanship in the exercise of official responsibilities are bedrock obligations for government lawyers. Mr. Barr has disregarded these fundamental obligations in several public statements during the past few months, and they want an investigation into Bill Barr. Why is he behaving as a political tool? Why did he ask a U.S. attorney to look even harder when he knew that the conclusion of a multi-year investigation into Hillary Clinton regarding the emails, Uranium One, the Clinton Foundation, you name it, produced no wrongdoing? None. It's not because Hillary didn't go to Wisconsin. It's because Rudy Giuliani went on the TV and said Comey needed to open up the email investigation.
Speak to Randi. Call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
So the new object of his ire is going to be Nancy.
Well, you know what bothers me? When I see Nancy Pelosi trying to defend this monster from Iran who's killed so many people, who's so badly, I mean, so many people are walking around now without legs and without arms, because he was the big roadside bomb guy. He was the one who'd send him to Afghanistan, he'd send him to Iraq. He was big. That was his favorite thing. He thought it was wonderful. He doesn't think it's wonderful anymore. When Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats want to defend him, I think that's a very bad thing for this country. I think that's a big losing argument politically, too.
What is wrong with you? She never defended him. In fact, this is what she actually said. And she's been extremely clear, okay, that he was a terrible, bad, horrible person like so many. You know, like Putin kills people, Assad kills people, the Ayatollah orders murder, Saudis dismember, Saudis stone women. Yeah, it's not about how bad they are.
That's foolish. It's completely foolish. And as I say, we have no illusions about Iran, no illusions about Soleimani. He was a terrible person, did bad things. But it's not about how bad they are. It's about how good we are.
That is brilliant. That is the real essence of why America is America. Why America is superior to Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. Why living here is a blessing. It's not about the bad people all around. You don't go around assassinating all the bad people. Why? Because we're good. That's why. But they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. They have just gone after her and put words in her mouth. Lying freaking sacks of crap.
I mean, if it wasn't so sad and serious with our country to have Nancy Pelosi, I did not think she could become more hypocritical than she was during impeachment. But guess what? Surprise, surprise. Nancy Pelosi does it again, and her Democrats fall right in line. One, they're in love with terrorists. We see that. They mourn Soleimani more than they mourn our Gold Star families, who are the ones who suffered under Soleimani.
Holy crap, Doug Collins. Holy crap, you piece of dung. Okay? You parasitic, ridiculously stupid. And you want to know something really sick about Doug Collins? Doug Collins was a member of the clergy. He was a chaplain in Iraq. That's how he served. He served as a chaplain. So, he never had to fight anything, he never had to put himself in harm. But he was a freaking... His only God is Donald Trump, this murderous man. Okay? This horrible guy who, whatever he touches, people die. Whether he puts his little finger on healthcare, he rolls back regulations on the environment, or he bombs Iran, or he bombs an Iranian general, assassinates a man in Iraq, another sovereign nation. I mean, this was like the trifecta of assassinations, right? But here's what Nancy Pelosi responds with, because she is a thoughtful, decent, prayerful American, like it or not.
So we all would die for our country. We take pride in saying that. But to kill for our country is a pretty traumatic thing. So when we want to engage in these, whatever you want to call this that the president engaged in, we have to be really careful about how we endanger our men and women in uniform who courageously, patriotically put themselves out there to protect and defend.
I got to tell you, she means it, okay? This woman has been a knowable quantity for a very, very long time in American life, okay? And she means it. This president changes sides like freaking Soleimani. You know what I mean? It's like Saudi Arabia dismembers a guy, and he has him in the White House while we're attacking in Iraq an Iranian general. And bin Salman, Prince Salman, is sitting in the Oval Office, a freaking murdering fool who not only murdered Jamal Khashoggi, a Washington Post columnist, and dismembered him and took his body parts out in garbage bags with a team of 15 people with a bone saw to... Oh, my God. He has that man in the Oval Office. Tells you he loves Kim Jong-un. Oh, he loves him. He writes some beautiful letters, beautiful. Duterte's a great guy. He's doing a great job with his police who are extrajudicially killing people who got addicted to drugs in the streets of Manila. I mean, these are his friends. Putin, who murders journalists. Putin, who beat Sergei Magnitsky to death in a Russian prison after Sergei Magnitsky had the temerity to be an accountant who figured out that Putin was stealing $230 million from the Russian treasury. And he knew it because Bill Browder had paid that amount. I mean, this is just so sick. And then they're going to invoke Gold Star families. Well, isn't that special? Gold Star freaking families? Can I remind you that Donald Trump trashed Gold Star families? He trashed Khizr Khan and his wife and said, well, I don't think his wife was allowed to speak, because, she's Muslim and everything. So insinuating that she wasn't allowed to speak because she was grieving at the Democratic National Convention. Okay?
There was a man named Khizr Khan speaking at the Democratic Convention. His son, Captain Humayun Khan, was killed serving in Iraq, and he had some very tough questions for you. He said you wouldn't have even let his son in America.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know that. I saw him. He was, very emotional and probably looked like a nice guy to me. His wife, if you look at his wife, she was standing there. She had nothing to say. Maybe she wasn't allowed to have anything to say. You tell me. Plenty of people have written that. She was extremely quiet. And it looked like she had nothing to say. A lot of people have said that.
No one has said that.
I watched him. I wish him the best of luck, Judge.
What would you say to that, Father?
Well, I'd say we've had a lot of problems with radical Islamic terrorism.
That's a Gold Star family. Okay? The man that he said was the man who died, the contractor, his name was, his last name was Hamid. Okay? His first name is Waliz, I think. Hamid. That's the translator, an Iraqi-American translator who worked for Valiant Security in California. That's it. But he's got a lot of problems with radical Islamic, and that's why Kaiser Khan's son, Humayun Khan, Captain Khan, his death wasn't worth anything to Donald Trump. And that Gold Star family, well, the woman was, somehow oppressed by that religion. And he did the same damn thing to Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and his wife, Maisha Johnson. She said that the condolence call that he finally made, because LaDavid Johnson was killed by terrorists in Niger, was worse than anything she could have imagined, because Donald Trump told her, well, your husband signed up for this, so he knew what he was going to get. What? I mean, that's a Gold Star family. Then, of course, John McCain. Well, he's not a hero. I like people that weren't captured. Let's not forget Max Cleland. Remember Max Cleland? The Republicans attacked him. Max Cleland lost, 2 legs and an arm in a roadside bomb. I mean, these are crazy people.
Fatality. Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
They're in love with terrorists. We see that. They mourn Soleimani more than they mourn our Gold Star families, who are the ones who suffered under Soleimani. That's a problem.
Can you respond to that?
I'm not going to dignify that with a response. I left parts of my body in Iraq fighting terrorists. I don't need to justify myself to anyone.
I want to ask you, when he brings up Gold Star families and they become sort of like a pawn in this political discourse, I mean, what is your view on that?
I'm disgusted. I will never, ever use Gold Star families, military men or women, or their families as any pawn in any political game. Let me tell you something. This issue is about America's national security. It is not a partisan political issue. My concern is America safer today than it was before the president made this rash decision without considering the consequences and having a plan in place to handle the consequences?
So that Senator Tammy Duckworth, who most people know, left 2 legs on the battlefield in Iraq, and they're invoking people who have literally left body parts on battlefields and saying they care for them more than the other side, more than that. It is just shocking. It is sick. I mean, Max Cleland, does everybody remember him from Georgia? He's still with us. He's just retired. But Max Cleland was also attacked. He was a Vietnam veteran. 2 legs and an arm were missing. They did it to John Dingell. John Dingell was a World War II vet, right? And they said Donald Trump stood on a stage and blithely said he's probably in hell. He's probably in hell now after he died. John Kerry was swift-boated. This is a guy who fought to end the Vietnam War and asked who are you going to ask to be the last man to die? I mean, there's another Republican Nixon war, okay? So Humayun Khan, Captain Khan, Kaiser Khan's son, was mocked because he could have been an Islamic terrorist, a captain who died serving this nation. There is no one, this president, he did it to John McCain too, we all know. He likes people that weren't captured. You know what? I like people that don't, that don't have bone spurs and then criticize the people who had the toughness, okay, to show up. This is I mean, honestly, how much garbage are the maggots going to eat before they realize they're eating garbage? It's so amazing. And now we've got this new thing, we've got to go to and they're going to, he said, they were going to attack an embassy. Now they're going to attack 4 embassies. Oh, now he needs to invoke executive privilege to keep John Bolton from testifying. Listen, this is so sick and sad. It has absolutely nothing to do with the truth. Nothing. Eddie in California.
Hi, Randy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hey, yeah. And, this entire Uranium One conspiracy saga, that story that you had in your homework, of course, looks like it's the cap on the whole story. But you remember there was a lobbyist named William Campbell back in the day, about 2 years ago, who he claimed he had critical information on this whole Uranium One Clinton Foundation kickback scheme or whatever it was. Well, he was actually a lobbyist, and he was also an FBI undercover confidential human source guy who was caught up in this kickback and bribery scheme trying to save his own skin at this company that belonged to Rosatom, which is part of the whole Uranium One saga.
That's who bought it.
His attorney in this whole entire endeavor was actually Victoria Tenzing.
Oh, of course it was.
Tenzing and DeGenova guy.
Yeah.
And so
who, by the way, are representing Dmitry Firtash. Okay.
Firtash,
who is probably the source of the Russian money that Fruman and Parnas gave to the Republicans. I mean, Kevin McCarthy, the leader in the House, who's so, he's so anti the Mueller report. This man took that money. So they're all so dirty. I mean, Mitch McConnell took the money. Kevin McCarthy took the money.
They can't help but stumble into these conspiracy theory sagas year after year. That guy, that lobbyist, William Campbell, he actually testified to congressional staff all the way back in February of 2018 about this whole Uranium One conspiracy theory. The congressional staff said he gave no evidence. There's nothing there. They decided that 2 years ago. And yet, my question for you is, what the hell was the Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney from Utah spending all their billable hours on investigating for 2 years after the staff in Congress said this guy is a self-interested conspiracy theorist nut represented by Victoria Tenzing. Nothing he said is believable, and yet they still kept investigating. But the case is still open.
But that's the heinous part. It's Hoover's FBI now, right? It's Hoover's Department of Justice. We're back to that. We're going right back to the McCarthy era, to the Roy Cohn, to the Bill Barr. He had a lot to do with the cover up of Oliver North and the Iran-Contra stuff and all that. We're going backwards. And
Victoria Tenzing, she's not the worst person in that family. For people who are interested in Bernie Sanders, they've got a son, the Tenzings, named Brady Tenzing. He's the former head of the Vermont Republican Party. He's the guy who wrote the letter to the U.S. Attorney for Vermont asking the U.S. Attorney's office in Vermont to investigate Bernie Sanders' wife for the purchase of, remember they bought that house on Lake Champlain. Yeah. Right. So their son is the guy who wrote the letter to the U.S. Attorney. They investigated for like a year and a half and finally decided there's no there.
Listen, that is why you had 450 federal prosecutors write a letter, Democrat and Republican prosecutors from Democratic and Republican administrations all sign a statement saying that Bill Barr has used his office to empower certain groups over others. And that
absolutely. And he's taking meetings with people who represent Dmitry Firtash.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm waiting for? Okay, so I'm waiting for, Fruman and Parnas obviously are willing to cooperate. I don't know whether or not, how it's going to play out, but they say that they have video and audio tape that would be of interest. So because everything Republicans say Democrats are doing is what they're doing. They project. That's what they do.
Yeah, and I'd love to see both Tenzing and DeGenova dragged in front of some kind of hearing and asked to explain why they're exempt from the Foreign Agent Registration Act, because all they do is represent either foreigners or foreign conspiracy theories, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, they are conspiracy theorist lawyers. I mean, if you have a conspiracy theory you want to sell, you go there, and they'll push it out.
You go right to them.
Yeah, go right to them. Yeah, and if you're a dirty Russian or you want to put dirty money in and you want to accuse the other side of doing what you're doing, you go to them. I mean, this is Republican politics. It's to politicize justice itself. And like I said, America is just an agreement. That's all it is.
Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Here's your fearless minority leader, Kevin McCarthy, who has provably been given money by the Russians and Lev Parnas. Here's his point of view.
I never thought there would be a moment in time that the Speaker of the House of Representatives would actually be defending Soleimani.
Holy crap.
The idea of this individual in this moment in time, that they would be defending Iran, that somehow they did not escalate this. When a president stood before the world and the country yesterday about de-escalating, what do you say to all the Gold Star families? Did you listen to what the Speaker just said?
I listened to what the Speaker just said. Here's what she had just said.
That's foolish. That's it's completely foolish. And as I say, we have no illusions about Iran, no illusions about Soleimani. He was a terrible person, did bad things. But it's not about how bad they are. It's about how good we are.
And then she said,
so we all would die for our country. We take pride in saying that. But to kill for our country is a pretty traumatic thing. So when we want to engage in these, whatever you want to call this that the president engaged in, we have to be really careful about how we endanger our men and women in uniform who courageously, patriotically put themselves out there to protect and defend.
Now, you know, these harpies on the right are all, lying to you. You do understand. I mean, most sane Americans understand that they are lying, invoking Gold Star families. And it's so interesting that so many people who have served this country in uniform come back and swear in as a Democrat. You know why? You know what the military teaches you? I'm not talking about the brass. I'm not talking about the generals who are still on their upward trajectory of a career path. No, I'm talking about the people who actually lose the legs, the people who actually lose their arms, the people who get the traumatic brain injuries, the people who actually stare down the enemy on the battlefield. Okay, I'm talking about the ordinary rank and file. They come back and they salute the flag, and then if they feel the call to public service, all of a sudden they join the Democratic Party. Why would that be? Why? Because in the military you learn the classic liberal lesson, and that is you are only as good as the weakest among you, and that your job is to reach down and pull up somebody who can't perform to the highest standards, to make sure that they can, because that person can save your life, or that person can cause you to lose your life. So you want that. This is what you learn. So the idea of them invoking Gold Star families when they called Max Cleland a terrorist because he was not all about going into Iraq. So he had to be called a terrorist. That was a man with 2 legs missing and an arm missing. They did the same thing to Tammy Duckworth. That is a woman who lost 2 legs on the battlefield. They did it to John Kerry. Okay? They totally trashed his service record. And then Donald Trump, John McCain, he's bad too. Kaiser Khan, he's not the right kind of American soldier. They're not the right kind of Gold Star fan. They did it to Cindy Sheehan too, and David Johnson's family. I mean, the list of people they have disrespected is literally endless. And I wanted to leave you with, just this is probably one of the. This is an older clip. This is Mike Pompeo showing you exactly who he is. Exactly who he is. And I just think you need to hear it from his own mouth.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
The glory of the American experiment is that you should learn to lie, cheat, and steal, and then invoke Gold Star families' losses, or wounded warriors' losses, or traumatic brain injured warriors' losses, and just use them politically. What? And I'm just going to play it for you one more time so you could hear Mike Pompeo. This is recent Mike Pompeo.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses.
Let's cheer for lying. Let's cheer for stealing. Let's cheer for breaking the West Point motto. Oh, you don't lie, cheat. These are some sick freaks, okay, who are using the names of what you would call a prestigious university or a prestigious education, and hiding behind that, say, well, the truth is I'm a liar, I'm a cheat, and I'm a thief. And I'll do it to you, and I've done it to them, and I'm going to do it some more. It is just so disgusting. And these people believe in one thing that is so dangerous, and it's been like creeping, crawling. And you want to know why things are so messed up, okay? Things are so messed up. There's an enormous amount of money sloshing around in politics to be given to people who will do the bidding of the top 1/10 of 1%. So that's part of the problem. The other problem is that, you'll see it next week, how broken the Senate is under the leadership of Mitch McConnell. The man cannot function as anything but Donald Trump's lapdog. That is how low he is. That is how disgusting. Look, there's no question Mitch McConnell's going to try and bury this impeachment, but the beauty of Nancy Pelosi is she wanted to force him to dig the grave for American democracy and the Constitution and the American justice system in broad daylight. And that is what you're going to see next week. They admit it all the time that they're frauds, that they lie, that they cheat, that they steal, that they're thieves, that they're on the wrong side of the Constitution, and people applaud them, so they keep on going. They just keep on going. They just keep on going. And America, I swear to God, if Congress can't take back what the Constitution gave them, which is the right and the sole power to declare war. That's Congress's job. The sole power to declare war belongs to the Congress, just like the sole power to spend money belongs to the Congress. They have some awesome powers. But this unitary executive crowd, this elite crowd, this swampy crowd, has decided we don't need Congress. We're going to do, like what the Nazis did. We're going to do it here in this country. We're going to make Congress an afterthought. Let the president reprogram money. Court says no. Well, screw the court. Put an attorney general in there that's going to use the Justice Department to benefit the executive. Benefit one man and one man only. Senate is already in the, and unless, we have a chance. I mean, it's 2020. We get to vote this year. Can send Mitch McConnell packing. And the people of Kentucky, my God, how poor and how willing are you to just, throw your future out the window because of him? You have a future, it's gorgeous there. It's a beautiful, beautiful state. Alex in Fort Lauderdale.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually Pensacola. I don't know why I told you Fort Lauderdale. Anyway, I like what you were saying about impeachment. You know, I was thinking we should have an additional article for what I consider to be a war crime, what they did in Iraq. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's a tough one, only because everything's so classified that, you know, you wouldn't be able to hear any evidence. And I think pretty much that's why they won't take it up. But obstruction of justice and all of that still hasn't been dealt with.
No, you're right. But I guess what I think is, you know, I think we violated international law and it's never appropriate.
Well, duh, that was the whole point.
A member of another country.
That's been the whole point of the last 3 days is showing you that he has no imminent threat, and that if it's not an imminent threat, then no action is authorized. That's number one. You know, you have several Republicans saying it. The other thing is how broken the Senate is so that there is no accountability or consequences. And the third is my favorite, the Trump supporter. What has he done well? I don't.
What is something that you believe the president has done well?
I'm not really sure. I just support him.
They're not even forced to drink the Kool-Aid. They're ordering it off the menu. Have a great weekend.